David Muthoka, KTN News, Nairobi.
Thank you, David, for that report. Now, a key cane sector conference aimed at addressing woes facing the industry attracted hundreds of cane farmers as well as leaders from mainly Western region. The conference held in Kakamega brought to the fore issues bedeviling the sugar sector, which cane farmers and other stakeholders wanted addressed. Some of the issues raised by the stakeholders included unscrupulous middlemen, cane poaching and poor farmers' welfare. And as Alano Chanda now reports, a section of the leaders called for the reinstatement of Kenya Sugar Board to replace the current Agricultural Food Authority, which they said had not addressed their grievances.
The big conversation on the revitalization of the ailing sugar sector, according to farmers, elected leaders and sugar stakeholders, paints hope in the journey towards its resuscitation as they lay bare the misfortunes that have engulfed the sector. They say the sector may only come back to life if key issues like cane poaching, removal of cane farming inputs duty, addressing unfair competition, among others, are addressed.
Some players actually run a militia that goes around poaching and forcefully harvesting people's cane, regardless of whether the local factory has invested money in the growth of that cane or not. At the end of the day, Zoya ends up losing its cane, losing its investment, losing everything, and the rogue player who has put in nothing harvests what he didn't plant.
So the model that we have been looking at, and we have been involved in the discussions on this path, is looking at the issue of how do you run these government factories efficiently and competitively so that they are able to compete with the private sector.
Sugar millers have in the past had the nod to import sugar, but some stand accused of entering an unholy alliance with unscrupulous business people. That forming fodder for the conversation too, with calls to remove sugar from the commodity cluster and instead consider it as food.
And the deficit that we have of almost 400,000 must be imported. But we need to come up with recommendations so that the importation of sugar should not be done by the sugar millers. We need to have some legislation to address sugar importation. That will help us to streamline some of the challenges that we have today.
We shall work to ensure sugar is classified as food and not a commodity, to allow for friendly task measures. And finally, we would champion for the establishment of a publicly owned company to import sugar whenever deficits arise, with profits realized from this venture plowed back into the sugar sector.
We cannot be speaking about the same thing for the last over 20 years. I hope that as we are gathered here today, it's going to be the turning point. It is not going to be another discussion where our people are really suffering.
Initially, there was the Kenya Sugar Board, but was scrapped and instead, together with other crops, brought under the Agricultural Food Authority. The authority, according to farmers, has failed to cater for cane farmers and now want the Kenya Sugar Board back. The authority a month ago temporarily stopped cane crushing by all cane millers due to cane shortage. During the period, however, some sugar brands have been present on the shelves, raising questions.
That the Kenya Sugar Board is supposed to be reinstated. We need to see sugar packaging, production, and so many other things regulated at one point. And that is why members of parliament who are here, together with the speaker, together with the stakeholder in the sugar industry, are proposing that Kenya Sugar Board be reinstated and have all these issues reinstated and controlled at one point.
Stakeholders and farmers, however, disagreeing on the issue of zoning, where millers were supposed to stick to their specified radius of cane catchment areas. Proponents argue it will emancipate farmers, while those opposed to it claim it enslaves cane suppliers.
I expect us to come up with radical resolutions on the issue of bringing back the Kenya Sugar Board, and more importantly, the issue of zoning of our sugar industries.
Mambo ya zoning sisi wakulima tulisema kitambo hatuwezi. Kulikuwa na task force iliundwa na serikali na sisi wakulima tuliunda yetu. Pia yetu iweze kusikikwa kwa sababu tulikuwa na ripoti ambayo hazikuwa inafurahisha mkulima.
Day one of the sugar conference and the discussion is all about removing the bottlenecks that have strangled the sugar sector for decades, maximize on cane development, remove unscrupulous business persons from the sector, and ensure a fair playing field for all millers for the benefit of the farmer. Alan Ochanda, KTN News.
To sad story, and 2 more people have died in last night's Voi accident, raising the death toll to